probably should play some audio, hey? We got 5 minutes.
You called us monsters, you cast us out. Now something worse is at your door, and now you're drowning doubt. Brand us, blame us, teach your children hate us. Chain us, chase us, let your priests condemn us. Church bells, torchlight, murder dressed in holy white. Closed doors, clean hands, no one chose to make a stand. Now your walls shake, now your proud kingdoms break. War comes, hope runs, see what all your fear has done. You never heard us calling, you never watched us grieve. But now your towers are falling. A sick child fading with the winter. One night, one wall. Change the blood within me. My mother called out. No one came to aid her. My father faced you. Fire claimed him later. I live, they died, ash beneath the crimson sky. You came to end me, but your victim would not die. You never called me human. You feared what I became, the girl you tried to bury. Now where's the midnight cry? We rose from ashes, we mastered blood, built all from hunger and strength from what was lost. You cast us outward, you made us run. You only call us kin when the darkness comes. Where were your saints when the fire reached my door? Where were your laws when you hunted us for sport? Now the black sky opens and you beg me for support. The queen's shadow cuts the water and carries us to war. I did not come for pardon, I did not come for praise. I came because this wounded earth is ours as much as yours to save. Behind my soldiers, you called us monsters, but still we came. tell me what survived. They called us cursed.
Alright, guys.
They called us soulless. They burned our homes and praised the flame. Now the sky is bright.
Should probably fix that. I should probably do it professionally. Alright. So, tonight is going to be quite simply just me doing coding, storyboarding, whatnot. So to give you an idea, we want this one. And this one, we can put it's going to cause problems. Really? You're going to have a fruit about me moving it? Simply screens, really? There. Is that better? You finished now? Finished having a fucking panic attack? Alright. I might be better off doing it, just putting it full screen. There we go. How's that look? Right, so we got the video over here. This is a Halo remake, has a big problem. Now, I will be playing Halo tomorrow night. So for the next couple of nights, it'll be a game stream. And apart from that, so what we're doing is on this screen, the black screen will be the video, and the screen on the bottom left, or bottom right, sorry, is going to be us doing storyboards. So things like this. Now this is going to be the announcement trailer for the game, so hopefully no one pays too much attention because you'll know what the trailer looks like. But yeah, let's face it, we're all here for the video, right? Alright, let's jump into it. So Halo remake has a big problem. So like I say, tomorrow night I do get to play Halo. I was going to buy it early, but then I saw all the problems about it, and I thought, I'm not giving them any money. So I do get it because it's on Game Pass. So let's go.
Halo Campaign Evolved is the prime example of how long.
I don't know this Austin Angle guy. Never seen any of his videos. Go check him out.
Lost and delusional modern game studios are. Howdy, howdy. My name's Austin, and today we are talking about the Halo remake. The good and bad, because I believe in being fair to games regardless of how, other people see them.
So I will say, I have watched a few people play it, a couple of people play it. Tactical Ferrets, my mate, was playing it a couple of days ago because he brought it early. The Shrub. Love you. And I was watching, also I think it was Astrocross or someone else was playing it. Might have been Heal. Heal vs Babyface was playing it. No. It was Alec. I know it's Alec was playing it. It's not looking good, guys. It's not looking good.
Halo Campaign Evolved is a misleading title to an otherwise almost faithful and almost one-to-one remake of the original Halo game. This
guy's going to cause me to have a seizure, isn't he? It's not. I'm sorry, but it's not. I don't know. Maybe the original episodes and the original game is the same. I'm not sure, but I've seen those first 3 new ones. There's continuity problems in it. For a start, the Master Chief is not supposed to know about what's the guy that's the Prophet? Prophet. He's not supposed to know about the Prophet until episode 2 or Halo 2. So him meeting in Halo 1 is continuity. And not only that, but also like they did the whole like MCV introducing them thing. It was so cringe.
You take out the 3 new missions that don't have.
Okay, So yeah, take them out. All right, yeah. If you take out the 3 new content, it's Master Chief Collection. So why did you redo it?
Actually do anything for the narrative at all. You have a game that feels like Halo in its gameplay. It has all the same music you love and the beats you expect.
This way.
I want to preface this video by telling you this video is going to be negative. Now, my intention is never to slam the developers behind the game because it's not like they woke up and decided.
By the way, you also got ex-Bungie devs who are also slamming the game as well. So, you know, it doesn't look good for Bungie.
They wanted to make a game that Austin fucking hates. That's just kidding. I don't actually hate it that much. They didn't want to wake up and make all the Halo fans mad. I mean, developers work super hard to put out games, even if they don't come out as intended, and I think we all need to remember that. But, that said, that's also not going to stop me from criticizing aspects of this game that slapped me across the face as a returning fan. Now, let's be honest, this game was marketed.
Oh, but by the way, they nerfed the AR. Instead of having 60 rounds, it now has 34.
And, you know, made for.
But don't worry, guys, faithful adaptation. Right.
For the diehard fans of Halo, I think they were expecting to get more newcomers onto the series because they're going to remake all of the games now. But I think.
Well, they say that, but after the way this one's going.
I think this new version is an insult to the original developers, despite them being mentioned in the credits, which is a nice touch. But what is Halo? Well, if you asked anyone on the street what Halo was and they were a gamer back in the early 2000s, they would tell you that it's a first-person sci-fi shooter that defined an entire generation and brought the original Xbox to life. But Halo has grown significantly since then, and let's be honest, Halo 1 is so much more than that already. It's a game that plays with heavy themes and juggles different genres in a really effective way. It balances unnerving mystery, exploration, action, horror, and religious themes. I'd argue that it did all that and made it special through its tonality. A lot of the original Halo game is very, very ominous. There are a few lighthearted, jokey moments here or there, but the way the characters say their lines invokes panic and building mystery, but the remake takes a lot of that away in favoring for trying to be more goofy and lighthearted. I go as far as to say they may have done damage to one of the original characters. But before we get all deep divey into that stuff, let's talk about what I liked. This feels like Halo when you were playing it. Yeah, you can sprint now, but honestly...
Yeah, also apparently you can sprint faster. And don't get me started on what Cortana looks like.
It doesn't really change the game up that much. The combat is a lot more fluid. You at a baseline move quicker, but...
Yeah.
I think my only negative with the new move...
Didn't this guy say at the start that it's pretty much a faithful adaptation, but he's already picking out all the things that didn't make it faithful? Austin, mate, what are you doing?
Is it makes running past enemies so easy. Like, I played on heroic and had no trouble running past entire groups of enemies in the late game. But the gunplay, the enemy AI, and overall sound design I think is great. There are a few quality of life improvements, like being able to pick up abilities and getting to choose when you use them instead of them activating by themselves. It adds a little bit of, you know, tacticalness to it. The assault rifle sounds really good. I'm not a fan of the battle rifle, but I don't think you get that in the main game anyway. At least I didn't find it. Marty O'Donnell's composed music returns faithfully, which is, you know, good, with it being just a little bit remastered to sound more punchy. This was probably the smartest move Halo Studios could have made because the music is almost more beloved than the games themselves, and it wouldn't feel like Halo without it. The same tracks play at the same time, so, I mean, they really nailed that. Overall, as an Unreal Engine 5 game running with a mix of the Blam engine from Halo Reach, it runs surprisingly well. I think I maybe had 2 frame drops. Yeah, I had 2 frame drops the entire game. I didn't have any crashes, but I do think it is really funny that the dev team couldn't rework the AI to make them smarter than they already are, because let's be honest, the Halo AI is kind of still ahead of its time. Like, not a lot of people try with their AI systems. I mean, they basically just stole already completed work and shoved it in here. But the gameplay is super smooth. I played on performance and it was great. Quality seemed to have a steady 30 FPS, but I mean, who the fuck is playing shooters on quality? I don't know, I guess some people do it. But speaking of visuals, I really liked the reworked environments and character models. Like, I love the new Forerunner architecture. I think there's enough detail and texture in it without it being overwhelming. I can't possibly understand why they keep changing Cortana's design, though. I mean, they absolutely cook.
Because of politics. Jenna.
With Halo 4s, and they've changed it twice since.
Yeah. Halo 4 Cortana was hot. But that's the problem. That side boobage. Oof.
And it's in this game, it's not the best design for her, but I'm also not really going to nitpick that as a negative because I guess who really cares? Johnson and Keyes look dope, and of course Master Chief looks like a bar of diamond encrusted gold. He looks so good. Now the cutscenes almost fool you into believing that they are cutscenes from Blur Studios, who did all of the CGI cutscenes for Halo 2 Anniversary, but you quickly realize they aren't. Guys, the cutscenes in this remake are not great. Visually, sure, for the most part, they look good. I mean, this guy looks like he just walked out of a PS2 era land thing game, but every single cutscene in the game had stuttering issues. Like, within the first 10 minutes of the game, I had over 6 stutters in pre-rendered cutscenes.
How do you do that? How do you have stutter in a pre-rendered cutscene? What the fuck?
Another stutter. What the fuck is going on? But it's not even just that. The animations for Chief and Cortana are stiff. There are audio sync issues, like someone firing a gun and the audio just not lining up with the timing of their firing. Visually, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, some look super good, and then some are like super campy, like Johnson breaking the fourth wall by smiling and looking into the camera. And I just don't know what happened here. And
there's a lot of MCU sort of shit happening in this game. You know, like them, like the Arbiter introducing his team, and then Johnson breaking the fourth wall. That's typical Deadpool sort of stuff. It seems like they're better, just still chasing trends.
in terms of writing, I guess not writing, but tonality, we'll come back to that in a little bit. This game is, like I said before, basically a one-to-one remake when it comes to the environments. The only thing they changed was the library, and they simply changed a few rooms into different.
The only thing they changed was the library, the fact that the Johnson breaks the fourth wall, the fact that you can move faster. They've also changed the nerf on the gun, and they've dropped it from 60 down to 34, I think it was, or 32. Yes, you can get a skull. That puts it back to 60, but still, they've changed the base. But it's a faithful adaptation, guys. It's still the same.
Layouts to stagger the repetition because, let's be honest, that level was terrible. They also added a visual growth of the flood infection as you go deeper into the facility, so you're at least getting like a visual feedback of your progress into the game. Aside from that level, it really is the same enemy placement, the same size rooms and layouts, which, you know, is great for the people that just wanted to play Halo again, or, you know, the Anniversary Edition that's like way cheaper. You could just play that. The problem is, this is a ground up remake. Or so they said, but it really isn't, because they literally used Bungie's old code to bring the game together instead of trying to enhance the game. And that's the real problem I have with this game. It doesn't justify its existence at all. Maybe to the corporate world it does, because Microsoft are grasping onto Halo like I grasp onto my pizza because I'm worried someone's going to snag it from my hand. But in my personal
Hey, speaking of, just had pizza tonight. I love pizza.
Opinion, a remake of a game is to keep the essence of the experience intact, while, ironically, evolving the experience into something new. Some people may just have wanted...
Yeah, but the way they've been evolving things into something new lately, you don't want that. Like, you know, like there's literally people online at the moment that are begging them to, like, fire half of the Xbox studio, or half the Halo studios, because this remake was so bad. You know, like... Yeah, there's literally a tweet going around saying, like, you know, like, Xbox, next time you're doing a massive layoff, start with 343 or Halo Studios. Like, even the biggest fence sitter, ChatGPT, has had to admit today to me that it doesn't look good.
A better looking Halo, and that's fine, but charging this much money for a game that comes with nothing but an 8-hour campaign is a freaking joke. You
get it on Game Pass.
What the actual irony of this is that Ubisoft actually made a remake worth making. Black Flag at its core is the same game people loved, but they improved it in almost every way.
There's some ways they deproved it. For example, censoring the girls on the figurehead on the ships and stuff.
Seamless exploration, 6 hours of extra content, a reworked map, more things to discover, better parkour. I wouldn't say the combat's better personally, but a lot of people think it's better. New characters, more ways to customize Edward and his ship. It's definitely not perfect, but they knew they
Yeah, you can buy a upgrade for your ship that costs more than the actual game does.
could enhance the experience, and they did. Halo was just, well, it's Halo.
Slow down. You're losing me.
And, like, that shouldn't be a negative ever, but there's no horde mode, no expanded levels, no multiplayer, no visual customization. I mean, Halo Studio...
That would have been the best thing, right? If they had gone through and actually put, like, multiplayer into this. That would have been justified for, like, the price. But let's face it, it's not, right? The price on this Combat Evolved does not justify what you're paying. Like, just seriously, you're better off going out and buying the Master Chief Collection. Well, you can if you want to play it on PlayStation, but you know what I mean. On PC or Xbox, you're better off.
Studios sold people in early access with all of these cool skins. I mean, some not so cool.
Yeah.
I bought it because I'm personally morally corrupt, but you can't even see them in the cutscenes that don't work because they're pre-rendered.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me how Halo Studios can be a...
That's the big problem with pre-rendered cutscenes, is that if you change your armor or anything like that, it doesn't matter because it won't show up because, well, it's pre-rendered. So, yeah. But mind you, they've still got, like, literally they've got, like, static or stutter on pre-rendered cutscenes. So,
literal part of Microsoft.
so that they gave you the worst part. They gave you the worst of both. They gave you the worst, the fact that the things don't change because you changed your armor, but they've also given you the worst because you also got stutter. So it's a bad lose-lose situation.
That has all of that code and shit from the last 3 Halo games and even Bungie's era Halo games, and they have done nothing, and they leave it all out. Like, ODST brought Firefight. Halo Reach brought extensive character customization with so much armor. Halo 4, it's a bit of a touchy subject with some fans, but it brought a human story that I really dug. Halo 5 had good gunplay, kind of, it felt more like Call of Duty, and the story was abysmal. And then Halo Infinite gave you more open environments with freedom to tackle objectives, and the grappling hook was so cool. And then just none of that is here. Like, I'm not saying they needed to bring all of that back, okay? But add to the experience. If they were going to put brutes in the opening missions with the new gameplay elements where if you shoot them in certain spots, they get enraged and attack their own allies, then why not just bring them over to the main game? Like, they're literally already in the game! Add new gameplay elements that make sense. They brought back sprint, but they didn't give you the ability to mantle. Like, why not have the grapple hook on a longer cooldown so you have to use it strategically? I would have loved deployable cover for some of these levels because of just how much rocket fire and grenades were being sent my way, and especially in cramped corridors. Even like a wrist or arm mounted shield that you could use to like deflect fire, and that was on a cooldown, that would have been appreciated. I just think there's so much they could have added that it might as well be called right now Halo Campaign Potential Wasted. I can't figure out why they didn't expand any of these missions. The Silent Cartographer is great for its time, but you could have easily benefited from a larger island with more to do and explore. Maybe a few Covenant encampments to take out and get valuable data, or stuff like customization, or lore files that bridge the gap between Halo and Halo 2 Remake, which I would imagine is probably already in pre-production. It really feels like Halo Studios were operating at a loss with this game. They didn't change things they should have, and they changed things they shouldn't have. For instance, the game isn't consistent in some of the interactions the player can have with the environments. In the second mission Halo, your footprints and Warthog have zero interaction with the water. The water sound effects are pretty minimal too. But in the next mission, Silent Cartographer, the water and sand react to both the player and the vehicles. In 343 Guilty Spark, the water, again, does nothing. But then in Keys, the goo that you walk through that's leaking from the Covenant ship Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's like how they use 2 different liquid simulations or something, or they just retextured the water from the original Halo CE, and then they added liquid tessellation or whatever you...
I can explain that. So at the end of the day, they might have actually used 2 different systems because of like performance. So if you've got like these massive, great big bodies of water, right? What they might have done is they might have used a large body of water for the big areas like ocean or something. But then when it's sort of like a small pool or whatever, they might have used the river body of water. So someone might have put the reaction to the water in one of them but not in the other, or they might have left it out of one for like performance. Could be a few different reasons for it.
Call it to certain bodies of liquid. It just doesn't make any sense. And the cutscene transitions are also just a train wreck. The way they transition from gameplay into cutscenes is so jarring. Like 1 minute you're playing and then boom, there's a cutscene that just starts playing. There's no fade to black. Not like the OG game had. And at the end of the Halo mission, you wait for the Pelican to land and you choose when you, the player, want to get on it to end the mission. But in the remake, as soon as you kill all the enemies, it just starts playing this cutscene. Oh, it just into the cutscene. In the original game, you have to walk up to the ship and get in. The Pelican. I don't like that change at all. And then in Silent Cartographer, there is admittedly a badass intro. Like Master Chief's just standing up in the Pelican while it's flying and taking fire. He doesn't even care. But in the OG game, you get to see the battlefield as the Pelican flies in and drops you off. Not only is Master Chief standing in the remake, when it transitions to gameplay, you're sitting in the Pelican. Like, couldn't you just have us jump out of the Pelican already standing before it can even land? There are so many examples I could give, but...
Well, that's because someone did the cutscene and someone else did the mission.
You get the point.
And no one bothered checking continuity.
What I really want to get to now is the new voice lines. They're so different that at times I thought they had rewritten some of the script, because a lot of the new line delivery from Jen Taylor and the newly cast people for Johnson and Keyes sounds so different and completely against the vibe of the original. Earlier I talked about tonality, and Halo had this down pat. It's what defined the game and how the player perceived it. It struck this ominous tone so the rest of the game could soar. While none of the actors did a bad job, it does sound to me like they were casting for a Marvel movie. I'll just let you listen to these comparisons that I have drawn up, and you can come to your own conclusions.
I've picked up reports that the Covenant have located and secured the Pillar of Autumn's crash site. The good news is the Captain is still alive. The bad news is that the Covenant have captured the entire surviving command crew.
Warning. I've picked up reports that the Covenant has located and secured the Pillar of Autumn's crash site. The good news is the Captain is still alive. The bad news is that the Covenant have captured the entire surviving command crew.
You all right?
Never been better. You can't imagine the wealth of information, the knowledge. So much, so fast. It's glorious.
So what sort of weapon is it?
What are you talking about?
Let's stay focused. Halo, how do we use it against the Covenant?
This ring isn't a cudgel, you barbarian. It's something else. Something much more important.
You all right?
Never been better. You can't imagine the wealth of information. The knowledge, so much, so fast. It's glorious.
So, what sort of weapon is it?
What are you talking about?
Let's stay focused. Halo, how do we use it against the Covenant?
This ring isn't a cudgel, you barbarian. It's something else. Something much more important.
Wait. No, that can't be. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known that there must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something buried in this ring. Something horrible. And now they're afraid.
Something buried? Where?
The Captain. We've got to stop the Captain.
Keys? What are
The
we...
weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here. Find Keys. Stop him. Before it's too late.
No, that can't be. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known. There must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something. Buried in this ring. Something horrible. And now they're afraid.
Something buried? Where?
The captain. We've got to stop the captain.
Keys? What
The
are we...
weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here, find keys, stop him. Before it's too late!
Man, here's where we show those split-chinned, squid-headed sons of bitches they couldn't have picked a worse enemy than the human race. We are going to blow the hell out of those dumb bugs until we don't have anything left to shoot them with. And then, we are gonna strangle them with their own living guts. Am I right, Marines? Sir, yes, sir! Mm-hmm, damn right I am. Now move it out, double time. Woo, here we go.
Attention all personnel.
Man, here's where we show those split-chin, squid-head sons of bitches that they could not have picked a worse enemy than the human race. We are going to blow the hell out of those dumb bugs until we don't have anything left to shoot them with. And then we are going to strangle them with their own living guts. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Mm-hmm. Damn right I am.
Keep in mind that Halo Studios kept all of the enemy.
To be honest, I don't know if I necessarily complained too much about the reworked cutscenes. I will say they look a lot better. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't really complain too much about that sort of stuff.
And Marine dialogue from the original game and just remastered it. So I have no idea why they decided to recast roles and do more work, especially because the new work really subtracts from the experience. Halo Campaign Evolved is a looker, but it doesn't actually do anything to justify the resources it wasted to produce it. Maybe that justification will build as they remake the remaining Bungie games, but I don't know, I honestly can't see it. Everyone loves a good looking game, but it doesn't make a game worth playing. I'd honestly recommend playing the original or the anniversary edition, unless you're someone who can't stand older generation games. I probably have a lot more to say, and there are details I didn't discuss here, but the video is long enough. I had fun with this game, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but I'd be a lot happier if the game was $40. And finally, to cap this off, I have a statement for Microsoft. Nostalgia is a lazy and incompetent way to push aside broader creativity, and this game is a prime example of that. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.
I think he did pretty good. Look, I will play the game probably tomorrow night. So, you know, we'll find out what it's like then. I do have both the Halo 1 and Halo Master Chief Collection. So we'll see. We'll see what it's like. But yeah, it's look, like I said, Ferrets was playing it earlier. I did think about buying it early or getting early access, but to be honest, I'm kind of glad I didn't. And I don't know what Ferrets has to say about it. I haven't seen him today, so I'm not sure what his thoughts are. Because I sent your thoughts are in that comment section below. Alright, what else have we got? We have Dr. Disaster.
Not bad, Spartan. I'm almost starting to believe the propaganda.
Make daddy
I'm sorry, it makes me laugh every time I see it.
What is up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the uncommonly unconquerable Dr. Disaster. And it is wild how far a dog shit site like Reddit will go to protect the absolute sludge being cranked out by developers like Halo Studios and pretend like it's actually just beloved by everyone. They will look at a pile of crud like Halo Campaign Evolved and go,
Yummy!
This post showed up a few days ago on the r/Halo.
Yeah, by the way, they banned this guy.
Halo subreddit, and it was pretty popular. It says, working on a mod for Cortana in Campaign Evolved, and then it shows an image of Cortana from the game itself on the left, and then it shows what this person is aiming to accomplish with their mod in the image on the right. And then down below it says, I can't not see Germa when I look at her, might take a bit, but since it's on Unreal Engine 5 now, I assume basic Unreal Engine 5 modding techniques will work fine. And as you can see at the bottom, this post got 2,730 upvotes with an 81% upvote rate, but this post was reportedly deleted by moderators, and it's because the people on that garbage site can't stand the idea of anyone disagreeing with them and criticizing their corporate overlords. It scares the hell out of them that there might be people who don't want to see an ugly Cortana.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Don't be such a pussy.
Meanwhile, here's a post that is still up on the same subreddit. This person wrote, I feel like I'm literally seeing something differently to everyone else. Uglification of characters is a big topic in this sub and many others, and I've seen loads of people calling the new Cortana ugly, and usually I would agree with things like this, as I hate uglification in games and media in general, but I really don't
Press X to doubt, chat.
see it here. She looks great to me. I mean, obviously nowhere near on Halo 4 Cortana's level.
Yeah, Halo 4 was really nice.
But still, I really don't get it in this case. And then at the bottom you will see that they have less upvotes on this post than the previous message with 1840 and a smaller upvote rate at 76%. But this post is allowed to remain up on that same
Of course it is, because the previous post was talking about actually removing let's just call it Germa. Talking about removing Germa and putting in a faithful adaptation of Cortana. The people that left this post, they're not talking about removing Germa. They're talking about keeping Germa. So therefore Reddit was fine. Reddit's fine to have that. But when you talk about removing it, well, you're removing a trans person. No matter what people say, no matter what people claim they say, the fact is that by them removing the first post, they are admitting that they see Gemma. Because you're removing a trans person. And that's why they have a problem with it.
Subreddit because it's praising the game. That is just another example of the various apparatuses that go about attempting to manufacture consensus.
She just dismisses anything she doesn't want to hear.
With that said, it will be very interesting to see what the numbers look like on this game on Halo Campaign Evolved when it fully releases tomorrow, because it has been seeing some backlash. The narrative containment has not worked. One of the first things people noticed was the ugly, manly-looking female soldier in the newly released missions trying to show up Master Chief and act like she's the main character. This was carefully hidden leading up to the release of the game, but people are pointing it out.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, right? At the end of the day, this is the thing. They know this stuff is not popular because we never even heard about this character leading up to the launch. What did we hear about? Master Chief, Cortana, Faithful Adaptation. They sold everybody on that, and then when you first get in it, this is what you hit with, this sort of stuff. You know, you hit with the bisexual lighting and blah, blah, blah. You know, so they know this stuff is not popular, because if they knew it was popular, they'd be leading with the advertising saying about this. And the fact that they hit it proves they don't think it's popular.
Now, and even a former game dev of some of the best Halo that we have ever seen is now speaking up about the woke shit in this game, pointing out how terrible the new iteration of the franchise looks. The Redditor types may think this version of Halo is lovely, but half the characters in this game are like,
I look like a man in a dress.
Well, no fucking shit.
Alright, me hearties, there have been tons and tons of clips coming out from Halo Campaign Evolved, making it clear that this is not a game worth playing, at least not in my view. There are loads of gameplay issues and story issues that look absolutely wretched that we've looked at over the past few days, and just to give you an idea as to what I'm talking about in this video, take a gander at this clip that has been circulating on social media where the guy is just trying to play the game and he literally can't seem to respawn properly because the checkpoint system isn't doing its job.
I do have a rocket launcher, you're correct. The problem is I just died. I wonder if I die further back, it might give me... I wonder if I die further back, it might give... I wonder if I die further back, it might actually give me such something that...
Or have a gander at this here. In the original Halo, when the Invisible Elites first...
I love that. Guys, where are the invisible elites? I don't know. I wish I could see them. Oh wait, it's where the markers are. I'm fucking idiots.
Popped up, it was a real WTF moment that had you looking over your shoulder for the rest of the game, but in this new version of the game, they helpfully...
They're right there, guys. It's the markers on the screen.
have little markers placed over the heads of the camouflaged enemies so that nobody gets surprised and has their fee-fees hurt. Isn't that just lovely? But to show you how these idiots at Halo Studios have screwed this game up from a more storytelling perspective, let me show you another in a long line of differences between the original game and the new game, which is just gut-wrenching for those of us who have loved Halo for a long time. We're going to look at a short clip which has some line delivery from Cortana. Here is what she sounds like in the original game.
I knew it! The Autumn's accelerating. Keys is going in manual.
And then here is what Cortana sounds like delivering the same line in the new game. And please make note of the absolutely snarky way that she delivers this.
I knew it. The Autumn's accelerating. Keys is going in manual.
Not only does Cortana look like a dude now, but she has become insufferable as hell. Anyhow, people have been noticing all of this shit that's wrong with the game, despite the fact that, as you can see here on Metacritic, the professional critics gave it an 82 out of 100, giving it sterling reviews. Narrative containment is not working though, and here you can see a post that is starting to go viral on X from Niles Sankey, a guy who worked on Halo 3. He wrote, "The Halo devs have apparently decided that the majority of Marines should now be women. I'm fine with occasionally seeing a woman Marine, whatever, but we're starting to enter clown world territory here. And as you can see from the image that he posted, there are a majority of Marines in that image that are women." Now, I think he's being a little bit hyperbolic. I don't think the actual majority in the game are actually female, but you get his point. This is getting to be ridiculous, and the guy really showed how basic least he is in the replies to his own post. This guy here replied to the dev, saying, "Women as a consumer market spend far more than men. Yes, men will make big purchases, but tend toward frugality on the day-to-day. Capturing the female market, a pipe dream for first-person shooter/war games, means you suddenly have triple the profit. That's the excuse. It's really just subversion, though." And then Niles Sankey replied to him, writing, "I don't think that's what's happening here. It's more likely that the dev team is full of left-leaning activists that think it's their moral duty to add diversity in hopes that it will help transform the culture." Like I said, the dude is based as hell and obviously notices what's...
I think a lot of it comes down to self-inserts, to be honest. I think a lot of people are just self-inserting themselves into the game when they work at these studios.
Going on in the gaming industry. But then, this person here tried to shame Sankey into conforming to his views. He wrote,
"Goes to show you can be really talented at game dev and be an effing chud in all other things. You are actively looking for an issue here when there are numerous real issues with Halo."
And then Sankey replied, "They could literally make every character a transgender wheelchair marine, and this guy would say, 'If you complain, you're a chud.'" And that is absolutely the problem, isn't it? There are too many people out there, the Redditor types, who are bound and determined to love a franchise like Halo no matter how shitty a game turns out. They will turn a...
But they don't play it, though. That's the worst thing about it. Is they don't even... Half of them probably don't even play.
Blind eye toward any mistakes or problems so that they can pretend that everything is normal and fine. But as we have seen over the past few days, since game clips have started coming out from this game, it was made by people who fundamentally misunderstand the IP and want to turn it into a theater kid production. Like I said, though, it will be interesting to see how well this all plays out with the general gaming masses. Normally, a Halo remake ought to sell many, many millions of copies, especially considering it is the first ever Halo game on PlayStation, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that it got big numbers, but I also wouldn't be shocked if a lot of this stuff discovered at the last hour will be enough to turn people away from the game and prevent them from buying. Anyhow, make sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. And if you're already subscribed, make sure that you're still subscribed to the channel.
It was Dr. Disaster, guys. To be honest, I don't know if it's actually... I don't know if this would actually encourage Sony players to actually go out and buy Halo. You still do have that sort of tribalism when it comes to the consoles and stuff. And I do wonder if a lot of the PlayStation people would be sitting there thinking at this point, like, it's a Xbox game, and that tribalism was kicked in. So I don't know if it would sell, but we'll see. We'll see.
The most expensive TV show ever.
Alright,
The other day I made a video
let's move on to Smash JT. I haven't seen this one yet, so let's see what Smash JT has to say.
talking about how the new Halo campaign Evolved is questionable at best with what they've done with Cortana and how it had some issues launching for the people that paid extra money to play.
Hey, how are you, buddy? Yeah, if you've got videos you want us to watch, within reason, as long as it's about gaming, no problems at all. As long as it's about gaming, though.
It early. And now we have some additional info coming out for the extra pre-missions that seem to be injecting some sort of girl boss, and it's going exactly the direction that a lot of people feared. We're going to start with Cabrutus, who said, remaking Halo and then deliberately hiding every mention and appearance of an annoying girl boss character who's constantly in the player's face is a terrible look for Xbox. Not that they care, by the way. Like, let's keep it a buck here. We're talking about Halo Studios. I've showed how many times that they push the rainbow colors and the people working at the studio and what they stand for. Is it really that surprising? Especially when they're trying to save a brand that spent years in the gutter and became the laughingstock of the entire gaming industry. Seriously, if they were going to include a character like that, they would have been better off not making those extra missions at all. That's what sucks about it. Because, like, when I first heard that it was going to have the extra missions, I'm like, this is actually like a selling point. This is like all the other ones. I'm like, I have like 5 different ways I can play the original Halo game. I'm fine with it. But the fact that there'd be extra missions in this one made me at least perk.
You can just post it in chat, man. Just post it. We'll get to it after.
My ears up, be like, wait, I'm listening. You have my attention. And now after this, I'm just like, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm good, because I'm reminded that the bisexual lighting that we see on the cover was tipping off to letting people know that this studio has been captured. And once again, I was right by being concerned about it. And then they continued saying, actually, they would have been better off not remaking Halo in the first place.
Look, like I said to you, as long as it's about gaming, I don't mind. So it's any sort of gaming review, any gaming sort of thing, we can break it down, we can talk about it. Yeah, as long as it's about gaming, I don't care. But yeah, just post it in chat and we'll get to it after. All right, okay, nice.
The entire project has been unnecessary from day one. Yes, but they have no talent and they have no idea what else to do. It's not like they can make like a new Halo game. Could you imagine if they did? Seriously, Xbox, you are by far the dumbest video game company I've ever seen. I've never seen a brand go so far out of its way to sabotage itself the way Xbox does. I haven't even played it yet. The copy I got as a gift on Steam doesn't unlock until the 28th, which this is a whole nother, don't get me started on the pay extra money to play it early, and then it doesn't even work when you do. So I'll get to see for myself.
To be honest, I don't like that idea. I really, really don't. I don't like the idea that you pay extra to unlock something early. I think it's a very bad precedent to set.
Just how much damage they managed to do to the franchise. This right here makes me not even want to bother. And being a big fan of Halo, it's really sad when you start piling it all together in the game industry, how far everything's fallen to really affect your ability to enjoy the games you used to love. But the reality is, it's the truth, and you can't run from it. Errata replied, the woke DEI garbage devs at Xbox can only do race swaps, girl boss, gay shit. They'll do a game in a popular franchise, Halo, and insert any or all of the above, but keep it very quiet. So when you buy it and play it, there's that gotcha moment to own the chuds. It's the old bait and switch. Very
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier too, right? Was at the end of the day, I honestly reckon the reason why we didn't hear about Lieutenant Williams and stuff beforehand was because they were legitimately hiding it because they knew the backlash. They knew about the backlash that would be coming, so they hid it. But yeah. It's not been the hardest. I thought the heroic was the hardest.
Just let me drink this in for a minute. So we were just right about everything. All of the reasons why Bethesda games take too long to make, why the studio is in the shape that it's in, why Starfield was such a dumpster fire. Under Xbox, these guys were effectively given a blank check. They could do anything that they wanted. They could take as long as they wanted. They were treated like royalty, and what they did with that is effectively nothing.
No, they didn't do nothing. They pissed it up the wall and lost all their goodwill. They did something. It was just a bad thing.
They just sat around. And Xbox isn't putting up with it anymore. Hell, they can't afford to anymore. So they're going as far as to even give Fallout over to Obsidian. Todd, you better watch out. Asha's coming for that jacket next, bud. Bethesda has to be.
That would be funny to watch. Asha just walking in and just saying, jacket now. And like Todd like handing over his jacket. That would be funny.
One of the worst ran studios in the entire games industry, and I don't even think it's close. These guys have been coddled by their fans, or not all their fans, but a good portion of them. The media has coddled these guys as well. They've never really been made to face the consequences of their own actions, but those days are over. It's done with. No, they're moving on. I've never experienced such sheer levels, such divine levels of catharsis as seeing Xbox's CEO come forward and say that their company and their studios have an accountability issue, a leadership issue. The blame isn't being shared the right way. It needs to be pointed in one direction, only to see these guys throw Todd Howard out into the limelight, make him go directly face the media and the fans and give them updates on the game, give direct timelines for when they're planning to do stuff, talk about stuff that's already in production and pre-production. It's beautiful. So today, I want to do something different. I want to talk about how Bethesda got here, how one of the biggest and most successful studios in the entire industry has been brought to kneel, and why that's necessary. Also, well, why I think Bethesda might serve as a case study for how some of these studios need to starve. What's the saying? It just works. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, Helix Mattress.
Wow, ow, 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 ow. 14 times the salt.
As you guys might have noticed, I have moved quite a far distance.
Yeah, I don't know about the carpet, bro.
From where I was before, and it just so happens that when Helix found out about it, they asked me if I would like another mattress, and seeing as I love the one that I already have, I absolutely said yes, and these guys sent me another one, and man, apparently it only gets better. I took their sleep quiz again, which only takes just about a couple of minutes. It asks you how you sleep, how firm you like your
But here's the... I toss and turn. Okay.
mattress and what your specific needs are. I tend to run hot, so it matched me with a cooling mattress, which is exactly what I needed. It showed up right at my front door. I rolled it out, and within minutes, I had a bed ready to sleep in. Since switching, I'm not tossing and turning all night. I am genuinely just getting some of the best rest of my life, and it just makes me wake up every single day feeling that much more refreshed. Even the cat likes it too. They also sent me their Comfort Adjust cooling pillows. You can add or remove the material that's inside to get it as soft as you want it or as firm as you want it, and I'm dead serious. I would never own another pillow outside of these.
I must admit, I do like that. Can we skip the ad? Sorry, hit legendary.
PlayStation, Nintendo, CD Projekt Red, Legend. Right now, you guys. Match. Thank you to Capcom, Take-Two, EA, Activision, PlayStation, Nintendo, CD Projekt Red, and Bethesda. But up until just recently, I never really thought about how much Bethesda stays out of the limelight. For one of the most decorated, well-known, and successful companies in the industry, it's kind of wild just how much of a wallflower these guys are compared to everybody else. This is the studio that basically defined the Western RPG. They brought a level of freedom and interactivity that most people probably didn't even think was possible. You could freely explore, stumble into random events, make choices that had actual consequences, kill important NPCs, brick your own run, or just point your camera in a direction and make your own story. They were some of the first, and honestly still some of the few games that genuinely let you play however you wanted. So,
and then they lost it all.
Why is that studio, of all studios, such a wallflower? Why does Bethesda blend into the background compared to everybody else? Well, I think the answer is that they became way too successful. According to Bethesda, Skyrim has now sold 65 million copies across all editions, while Fallout 4 has sold 35 million units. That's just 2 games. Skyrim alone has already brought in well over $2 billion, and that's before DLC or microtransactions.
In case you guys are wondering, yes, my cat is here, and I was talking to him. Well, teasing him. I find that if you sit there and mimic them, they get the shits with you and walk off.
And off the back of that success, Bethesda stopped facing the normal pressure to release games consistently or even support those games that they already made because, well, they had enough money just not to care. So the gap between Morrowind and Oblivion was 4 years. Oblivion to Skyrim was 5, and it's now been 15 years since Skyrim came out. Fallout 3 to Fallout 4 was 7 years, and since Fallout 4 released in 2015, it's been more than a decade of silence outside of Fallout 76, which is a live service spin-off that was made by Bethesda Austin rather than Bethesda Game Studios proper. Well, I guess I probably shouldn't say that they haven't released anything because, well, they have re-released Skyrim some odd 15 separate times if you count every single port to new consoles that have been coming out ever since the Xbox 360. They even made a text-based version for the Amazon Alexa, which, yes, Bethesda actually made that themselves. These guys will do anything other than make a new game. Now, as funny as this guy...
It does make you wonder. Like, I wonder if they sit there and they realize that they don't have the talent to make the new game. And they're scared. They're like, well, what happens if we launch and it's a failure? So we'll just keep remaking. It makes you wonder.
Skyrim re-releases are, I think it reveals a real problem with Bethesda. They made a game, or they made games that were so successful that they no longer had to operate under the same pressure as everybody else. They could take their time. They could do whatever they wanted. They didn't need to release games consistently, talk to their audience, or even finish fixing the games that they had already sold because, well, the old ones kept making money anyway, and there was always somebody else there to fix their games for them. For years, people have treated Bethesda's problems like they were part of their charm. The bugs were funny. Broken quests were just something that happened. Characters falling through a floor, save files corrupted, NPCs walking into walls, entire systems that barely even worked, and somehow, Well, all of that just became a part of the Bethesda experience. People would laugh, they post clips online, and they just download a fan-made patch that would fix half of the game. Bethesda benefited from that probably more than any studio ever has. They have had one of the most talented and dedicated modding communities in the entire world that have been working for these guys for free, fixing bugs, rebuilding systems, adding content, improving performance, and keeping these games relevant for years. Bethesda would release the framework, and then the community would spend the next decade finishing it. And now the funny thing is that Bethesda is so terrible that they'd come back years later and break all that work themselves. Their next-gen update that they had for Fallout 4 broke modded playthroughs completely.
I think it was broken too for what, 18 months or something, wasn't it? I don't get it. Can I say hi to chat? No? Okay.
Ruined VATs and damaged a game that a community had already spent nearly a decade fixing. Then Bethesda left it like that for a year and a half before returning with their anniversary edition, hands out asking for more money while fixing the problems that they caused with their previous update. Think about how insane that is. This wouldn't be acceptable for anybody else in the games industry. Their modding
We launch a broken game, the modding community fixes it. We then put out a patch or an update or an anniversary edition or whatever it was that re-breaks everything. We leave it for 18 months, refuse to fix it, and then we put out yet another anniversary edition or whatever it is, and we charge you for it. So we're charging you to fix the game that we broke after you fixed the game that we broke. And people keep buying it. They keep
community wasn't just expanding Bethesda's games.
You wonder why they do it. You're sitting there deep throating it and then, complaining about the size of the cock that you're getting in your mouth.
Were protecting those games from Bethesda itself. And even then, nobody inside the company seemed to face any real consequences. What I find insane is how this has just become so normal for this company. Bethesda now started actually defending this kind of behavior. They would talk about the scale of their games, the freedom that they offered, how these bugs were unavoidable when you're making something that's so ambitious. And, sure.
Which, yes, I do understand. Yes, look, shit, the game we're making, right? I understand. But at the end of the day, the problem is not the fact that you had bugs. The problem is that you left the bugs there for 18 months, didn't fix them, and then after that, then turn around and try to charge people to fucking fix the bugs that you caused. So that's the problem. The problem isn't the bugs. The problem's not ambition. The problem is that you left it like that for fucking 18 months.
Games this large are going to have some problems, but there is a massive difference between a game having some bugs and a company expecting somebody else to eventually clean them up for them. And that's where I think a lot of the real damage was done. When nobody is forcing you to actually fix your processes, well, you don't have to improve it. You already have people that are patting you on the back. You have tons of money that's coming in. You don't have to worry about that.
It's still put the fucking helmet on it. Done. You dumb fucking.
Then you have players that are the ones that are fixing your games and giving them more content for you. Bethesda could keep using the same development philosophy, the same production habits, the same excuses because, well, people just kept showing up. They could release something broken, disappear for years, re-release Skyrim again, and guess what? The money just kept flowing. And what made it worse, I think, is when Microsoft bought these guys in 2021, Bethesda suddenly had access to one of the largest companies on the planet, nearly unlimited resources in a parent company whose entire management philosophy at the time was just leaving those studios alone. Xbox constantly bragged about giving developers creative freedom, letting these studios maintain their culture, and refusing to interfere with how these guys were making games, which honestly sounds great until you realize the kind of culture that you're actually protecting.
And by the way, that sort of stuff is fine if the guys that you are leaving alone are making bangers, right? If for example, never going to happen, but if it does happen that we end up buying out and selling out to Microsoft, and Microsoft is micromanaging everything that we're doing, but we're putting out banger after banger after banger, then you can turn around and say to Microsoft, hey, look, just let us do our fucking jobs. But the problem is that these studios weren't putting out bangers after bangers after bangers, right? They were putting out fucking slop after slop after slop. And Microsoft was still sitting back going, no, they'll be right. That was the problem. They fixed it, removed the helmet.
I don't think Bethesda needed more freedom. I think that they had already enjoyed decades of it. What they actually needed was somebody that was willing to walk into the building, look at how these games are being made, look at where all that money was going, look at how broken a lot of these games were launching, and ask why one of the largest RPG studios in the world can no longer release an RPG in a reasonable schedule or with any standard of quality. Instead, Microsoft just handed them a blank check and waited for Starfield. And
How did that go, by the way? We've already done 32, have we?
Starfield, man, this is the game that was supposed to justify it all. This was Bethesda's first new universe in decades, Todd Howard's dream project, and the first major Bethesda release under Xbox. It had years of development behind it, thousands of planets, and the full financial support of one of the richest companies on the planet. If Bethesda's games were taking longer to make because these guys were putting in more effort and trying to make them higher quality and be more ambitious, then Starfield was supposed to be the payoff. Instead, it just showed how far this studio had fallen because, man, this game was enormous, but it felt entirely empty. You could travel across the entire galaxy, but most of that travel happened through menus and loading screens. You could land on thousands of planets, but most of those planets were entirely empty. Locations repeated, enemies repeated, objectives repeated, and the more that I played, the more obvious it became that the scale of this game was just there for marketing. And almost every single complaint that people had about Starfield was something that Bethesda had already been criticized for years about. Stiff characters, awkward dialogue, dated combat, shallow choices, repetitive content, and more bugs than we'd ever seen in a Bethesda game. But I think Starfield's biggest problem was that there was no Tamriel to get lost in, no wasteland that people had loved for decades, and no established characters or history that was carrying that experience. Starfield had to stand entirely on what Bethesda had become.
That's an interesting argument. So he's saying it's because they didn't have the nostalgia of Fallout or the Bethesda game, that at the end of the day, that it made people more aware of the problems of Starfield. Maybe. Could be.
Once you remove the nostalgia and the mods and all of the reputation, there really wasn't all that much holding this all together. To me, Starfield just revealed Bethesda. It was the clearest look that we'd ever got.
So that is an interesting question. Would Starfield have had so much backlash if it had nostalgia? Or the nostalgia aspects of Bethesda? I don't know. Probably.
At this studio, and what it had become over all these years of success, isolation, and nobody willing to tell these guys no. I'd like to take the time to remind everybody that Bethesda was genuinely shocked that people didn't like Starfield. So shocked that they took themselves to the negative Steam reviews, responding to just about every single one of them, telling players that you just don't understand the game and that's why you don't like it. I still remember one that was a guy talking about how boring and empty the planets were, and they came back with, well, when the astronauts went to space, they certainly weren't bored.
Has to be the most fucking response ever. Well, when the astronauts went to space, they weren't bored. Because they're actually going to fucking space. When you're playing a video game, you're still living in your fucking lounge room, you fucking twat.
Comparing actual real-life space travel to your video game is a whole level of ego that that's impressive. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
You had Emil Pagliarulo that was taking to Twitter to argue with gamers about how they just don't understand how the soup gets made, and they shouldn't even try to question the entire experience or anything like that, and then eventually deleted his Twitter account right afterwards, like many of these developers end up doing. This is the kind of reaction that only comes from a studio that is completely isolated, and their success had isolated these guys for so long. They were so genuinely surprised that people were not impressed with what they had done. And it's because they essentially just locked themselves in a closet and made this game and never thought they really needed to think about anything outside of themselves. These guys, they took themselves off planet. They were in outer space at this point. They didn't
They were on the moon.
feel the pressure to improve. They didn't even look at any of their own competition. They didn't even look at games like No Man's Sky and realize that many of these guys technologically were decades ahead of these guys, and it wasn't even close. And honestly, why wouldn't Bethesda feel like they could get away with it? Everyone spent years letting them do it.
Yeah.
The media forgave them for basically every bug in the game because they're like, oh, it's just the cost of how ambitious these games are and how impressive these games are. Fans would laugh at the bugs and post clips. Modders would come in and fix everything behind them. They basically had their ass wiped the entire time they made their game, so why would they ever think that the shit don't stink? Of course these guys are going to start to believe their own bullshit after a while. But the problem is that with that level of success, eventually you're going to start to have some problems because when you stop...
It's not just that too, but once you get to that level of success, if you take your foot off the brake, that's when people start to notice too. You know, and that's what Bethesda definitely did. They took their foot off the brake, they stopped trying, and then they just coasted, and everybody noticed. And that was the problem.
Asking whether or not your games need to get better, they just don't end up getting better, and they get stuck in time. And that can go on for a while, especially when you make games as successful as Bethesda has made games in the past. But eventually, that check runs out. And in this case, Xbox is coming in to cash that check. I don't think people fully comprehend just how much of a failure Starfield was. This was Bethesda's first game in 2 console generations, a brand new IP that spent 7 years in development, had a massive marketing campaign, and likely cost that studio over $200 million to make, with some estimates putting the total with marketing between $300 to $400 million. And this game hit the water and sank like a brick. On Steam, Starfield lost half of its players in 2 weeks.
It hit the water like a fucking spaceship.
Bleeding from there, and then when they dropped their first expansion, Shattered Space, it only brought back 9% of those players. Yes, 9%. This game was a dud. If you guys don't believe me, then explain why Bethesda will happily tell us how many copies of Skyrim and Fallout 4 sold, but with Starfield, suddenly it's all just players and hours played. Bethesda made billions off of its older games, but that money doesn't last forever. You can only re-release...
I will say, the ship modding on the Starfield was fucking amazing. It was really, really good. I wish they had gone a little further with it. Like you've been able to actually put in things like in your ship, like put in like cabinets and stuff. Maybe they did with that expansion. I never played it, but it was just it was the ship modulation was really good. It was really well done. Something I'm looking at for my game. Because, yes, you will be able to customize your pirate ships.
Skyrim so many times. Their newest game flopped. Nothing else was close.
I say pirate ships, but let's face it, it depends on what you do, whether it's a pirate ship or just a sailing ship, right?
Close to release, and Xbox was left footing
There's a hint there.
The bill. Xbox itself wasn't making any money anymore, so new management came in, and man, that bill eventually came due. Microsoft recently announced 3,200 layoffs across Xbox, with the first 1,600 that happened immediately. ZeniMax and Bethesda were the ones that were hit harder than anyone, losing around 440 jobs. Teams then started to put together these incredibly morbid memorials for their laid-off developers like they had died at war or in a car accident. Man, I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm sorry, but if you're this...
A wall of heroes. These are the ones we lost along the way. Idiots. By the way, a lot of these people getting laid off. So what happened was a lot of these studios went through and they got a lot of extra financing and a lot of extra funding when it came to COVID. So they got these tax-free loans or these very, very minimal interest-free loans. So what they do, they spent all the money. They blew it, and they blew it big, right? So they went through and spent all this money, and got all this money spent and blew it all, and then all of a sudden the companies turned around and said, "Well, what have you done with this money?" And everybody was like, "Well, we employed people. We've got incubation periods," and that's where it sort of all went to shit. So yeah, it's very interesting, and that's basically what's happening is now. So you had all these people up until COVID And then they got all these interest-free loans and all this money. They massively employed people, blew all their budgets, and now they're cutting back to a little bit below where they were before COVID, because they've got to pay back all this money that they've borrowed.
Disconnected from reality, and you have this much time on your hands, you are practically volunteering for the next round. So I'd watch out if I were you. But the most...
Yeah, by the way, if I'm running a studio and someone has time to sit there during work hours and to make a memorial for people that got fired, I'm firing you next, because you obviously don't have a job. You don't have something to do. You need something to do. And looking for a job is another option.
The important part of this Xbox reset wasn't even the layoffs. It was the accountability. Asha Sharma came out and said that some work in some parts of Xbox had passed through nearly as many as 14 layers of management, while the platform teams had grown 40%, even though their player base and play time had declined. According to her, all of that complexity slowed down their decision-making, blurred accountability, and made it harder for them to deliver anything. Their plan was to cut down those 14 layers of management down to 5, and where possible, only 3. 14 layers of management. Apparently, it took 14 people to make sure that nobody was actually responsible for anything. I don't know how many of you guys...
Well, that's the big thing, right? Is at the end of the day, is they don't want anybody responsible for anything. You know, division of labor.
Guys were actually around for the video that I did that was around the fall of Ubisoft, but I had interviewed current developers who had told me that oftentimes they don't even know their bosses' names. If they actually had a suggestion or they had something that was urgent, it had to pass through multiple managers and different teams before it could ever actually reach anybody capable of doing anything about it. And clearly, that's just not a Ubisoft problem. Xbox had it. Bethesda had it. Hell, nearly every major AAA publisher and studio seems to have some version of it.
Now, I've talked about this before, right? What we're going to do with the studios, we're going to have strike teams. So teams of 5. So you'll have a leader, probably 2, maybe 1 or 2 coders, maybe 1 or 2 UIs, maybe 1 or 2 modelers, and depending on what's needed, and they will work in these teams of like 5. And each team will be given a job. So like for the big projects, right, then we'll divide it up into 2 teams of 5. We'll get the 2 teams of 5 working together. So it'd be a team of 10. You know, stuff like that. But it would be small teams of 5. So if you have a suggestion, you tell your team leader tells Decimator, who's going to be my right-hand man, and him and I will talk about it. And that's it. 3 layers. It's perfect.
It turns game development into this giant game of telephone. Suggestions never make it through. Games get completely distorted along the way, and conflict with changes from other things that other managers are making just kind of make everything an entire mess and make these games so much worse for it. And when something finally does go wrong, well, nobody knows who to blame because there was no single person that ever had full responsibility. Who made that decision? Who approved it? Who was supposed to stop it? Nobody knows. And I think Bethesda and a lot of other Xbox studios have been benefiting from that kind of confusion for way too long now.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Is at the end of the day, I think a part of me is sitting there thinking that a lot of these guys are happy with this sort of arrangement where there's like 14 layers of managers, because no one can be taken into account. Because at the end of the day, like who put the, for example, who put the bisexual lighting in Halo on the Halo 1 Combat Evolved box? Well, I don't know. It was one of them. But the thing is that the person that did it, that know it was probably not a good idea to do it, can just sit there, shut up, and not say anything, and they get away with it. I think there's a bit of that happens too, where it's sort of like, well, like because there's so many people, who do you find is responsible for the stupid shit or the stuff that doesn't work? Well, you can't, because it could have been any of them. Well, it could have been you, could have been you, could have been you, could have been you, blah, blah, blah.
A lot of people get angry when they see a lot of these layoffs, but I'm one of the very few people that believes that some...
Oh, believe me, I'm not getting angry. I'm sitting there thinking we need more.
Some level of these cuts is necessary across basically this entire industry at this point. These studios need to get smaller, not just because they're spending too much money and taking too long to make these games, but you can't have accountability when responsibility is spread across hundreds of people and 14 layers of management. What people don't really understand is that ideally, this means that there's going to be fewer mass layoffs. Instead of one failure having AoE damage across the entire studio, a smaller, cleaner chain of command makes it a lot easier for you to identify who the actual problem is and who actually is causing the.
Exactly, but that's why they don't want it. Because of the fact that you can identify them. They think as long as I'm in this massive sea of people, I'm fine, I'm safe. But what they don't realize is that the problem is that because they're in that sea of people, eventually everybody will get fired, not just them. But they still make their bag between now and then, I suppose. So what do they care?
Problems and remove them before the entire company catches fire. And I think that's what we're already seeing with these layers of management that are getting stripped away, because Todd Howard was dragged out into the light almost immediately. Xbox started finally asking questions that somebody should have been asking years ago. Why is the next Fallout game so far away when we have a successful TV show and it's already been over a decade since Fallout 4? Why is the Elder Scrolls so far out when it's been 15 years since Skyrim? Why is there no urgency from a studio whose newest game just flopped and isn't bringing the money in that it used to? Xbox tore away that protection that Bethesda had been hiding behind for all of these years and placed Fallout and Elder Scrolls squarely on Todd's shoulders.
You need to rip that jacket off him, to be honest.
They removed the media blacklist. They made Todd give a public update on the studio and on all of their projects. They pushed more of their...
Oh my god, this shit down here is so frustrating. This constant validate, this constant you've hit community guidelines. I'm creating a friggin' monster. Like, I'm not asking for a butt-naked girl with a fucking leg spread apart showing a twat.
Games into development, and they even handed Obsidian the responsibility of leading another Fallout game. Now, this is the change that I think says the most about what's happening at Bethesda, because I know that these guys do not like Obsidian, and I know for a fact that they do not like New Vegas, because despite it being one of the most beloved games in the entire franchise, we just heard just a couple months ago, Chris Avalon, one of the former leads for New Vegas, told a YouTuber, TKS Mantis, that Bethesda had sat the team down and gave them a PowerPoint presentation for everything that they had done wrong with Fallout.
I can tell you now, I reckon Bethesda hates Obsidian.
Fallout. And now Xbox is handing Fallout to Obsidian.
Yep.
To me, that says account.
I'm sure Ashama loved doing that. She probably rivaled in it.
Accountability has finally come for Bethesda, but so has a loss of control. Xbox clearly doesn't think that these guys are handling their franchises properly anymore. They're essentially saying that you're not going to hoard the family jewels and do nothing with them. Either you're going to invest in these IPs properly, or we're going to find somebody else who will. And while I'm not the biggest fan of modern Obsidian outside of Grounded, I can't deny that these guys actually make games. I mean, since Starfield came out, they've released The Outer Worlds 2, Grounded 2, and Avowed. And if you zoom out even further to like Fallout 4 for...
Yeah, but I will say that Outer Worlds and Outer Worlds 2 weren't real massive successes.
Bethesda, well, that was 2015. Obsidian has released 11 games to Bethesda's 1. Again, I don't love most of their recent output, but they keep their budgets lower, they keep their performance higher, and they keep their schedules tight. We are going to see another Fallout game within a realistic amount of time, and more importantly, Bethesda is going to finally have some real competition, someone else that's going to be making games with their IP, and Bethesda is going to have to live with being compared to these guys.
But I will say, too, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because at the end of the day, say this new game comes out and it's a flop, then people are going to look at Obsidian and say, well, okay, but were you guys one-hit wonders? Did you fluke the last time? That's the double-edged sword, right? Is well, okay, but was it a fluke or did you actually have skill?
And honestly, I think this is exactly what Bethesda needed. Not just the layoffs themselves, but the pressure, the accountability, and the understanding that they just can't keep sitting on some of the biggest franchises in gaming while sitting there and taking a decade to make anything. For years, Bethesda was treated like they were above the rules. They could take as long as they want. They could release their games broken. They could get those games fixed by modders, and they could still sell because, well, people love Fallout and the Elder Scrolls that much. But Starfield proved that Bethesda's name just isn't enough anymore, and it's not going to be enough anymore. I mean, it's been decades or over decades for some of the games that they put out. There's entire generations of kids that don't even know who these guys are. You're not going to have anybody to buy these games. So now they have deadlines, they have competition, they have somebody above them asking them where the games are, why are they taking so long, and why another studio can release 11 games, why they can still barely manage to make one. That doesn't automatically make the next Elder Scrolls or Fallout game good. Xbox still could overcorrect, rush these games out, or expect fewer people to do more work, but at least Bethesda can't hide anymore. They have to communicate. They have to deliver. And for the first time in a long time, they have to prove that they still deserve to control these franchises. Bethesda's free ride is over. And honestly, I think it should have ended a long time ago. Bethesda being forced to change is a far better alternative to seeing this company completely dismantled and destroyed and seeing their franchises wither and die on the vine. Their free ride is over. The money from the past is running out. I think that's something to probably keep in mind, is that like while these guys have made a ton of money, a lot of money, after a while, those sales are going to start to dwindle because people just aren't going to be buying your re-released games all the time. And Starfield definitely did not give these guys the boost that they were looking for. The Xbox welfare checks are being cut. So it's time for these guys to actually get to work and start acting like a real studio again. This is either going to be a new era for Bethesda or it's going to be the start of their downfall. And I don't think that there's going to be a middle ground with this. This is also going to serve as a case study for a lot of other companies and what they're probably planning to do with their guys as well. Because in theory, by putting more responsibility and putting more accountability onto Todd Howard for the financial success of their games and the overall image of their company, well, he should be taking his role seriously. He should be taking the actual development of these games much more seriously, and he should also be taking the fans much more seriously. By getting rid of the media blackout, well, now you should also have a lot more transparency. By going and getting rid of these layers of management, you should have clear forms of communication, which means the game should get done faster. By having smaller teams, you should have a much more clear
video stopped working on the screen.
Creative vision. This kind of pressure should form diamonds, but if Bethesda's too weak, and looking at the state that we saw Starfield released in, and just Starfield as a game, basically entirely, these guys might be so weak that it could just crush them. Don't know which way that's going to go, but we're going to probably find out pretty quickly. I'll tell you that right now. These franchises deserve better. I think that's probably the one point that I want to make, because it's clear that Bethesda either has no idea what they're doing or that these guys are effectively in the mindset of, we don't have to know what we're doing because we're the ones that made them and we can do whatever we want. And I think that these guys think that they're just always going to be relevant and they're always going to be able to make money. But I'm telling you guys, what a lot of these companies fail to realize, and this is something that's going to become a really big issue in the next coming years, and it's probably something that I probably need to make a video on at one point in time. So maybe
I would say there's a certain level of arrogance that is coming about from Bethesda, and especially Todd Howard, right? And you can sort of see this when, like, for example, the backlash when about their Starfield. It was always like, it's like they went to the moon and they weren't bored. It's like, yeah, but dude, you're comparing going to the moon with playing a video game where you go to the moon. They're nothing alike. But it's this arrogance that they seemingly have.
maybe they can understand it a little bit better, but this is going to make me feel so old when I say this. There are kids today that are getting their learner's permits that were born when Skyrim came out.
Oof.
There are entire generations of kids that have grown up not even knowing who Bethesda is. Maybe they ended up playing Skyrim or something.
That might be for the better, to be honest.
Like that because of their parents. Maybe their friends got it for some weird reason. Maybe they actually got caught by one of the re-releases, but I can guarantee you that there are a ton of kids that have no idea and have no interest at all in anything Bethesda has done, and they don't even understand why people are probably giving them the respect that they do. If, when I look at the game...
Why did they draw an image of him carrying a teddy? Showcases the drugger looming behind him. The wooden horse has rendered too much like a stuffed toy rather than a broken wheel. Yeah, it kind of has. It kind of has. It's changed it from a teddy to a stuffed toy to a. We'll save that just in case it fucks up again. Alright, that's the one we want to replace. Let's try this. So it says here while holding a toy. I think if we yeah, I don't think you should have the toy.
Games industry, and I see how we have like this massive epidemic of live service games and things like Roblox and stuff like that. Well, the thing is that a lot of that, much of that is to blame, but the fact that there's just not any good games that are actually released by the industry, by some of the most important and most influential franchises in the industry. Some of the biggest companies in the industry have basically been asleep at the wheel, and because of that, they've lost all of these guys. And the only way for you to get back in the saddle is to make sure you're actually making games, and that's exactly what Bethesda needs to do. Otherwise, these guys are going to be left in the dusty tome of time. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of the video. If you guys enjoyed.
Because here he finds the seas. Right, he sees this. His flame goes out. He picks up the scarf. Monster gets up, stands up. He sees it, and then he runs. Right. I think we should remove the toy. And we can redo the concept image, redo the title when we remove the toy. Alright, legendary drops. Guys, go smash the like, go subscribe. He does good video. We just heard.
Just let me drink.
Modern day slop. 2 days ago, Edemion. What's Edemion got to say?
There was a time when Halo.
Alright, we're going to go jump on now to Edemion. Talking about Halo Evolved is a humiliation ritual. It's pretty accurate, actually, to be honest. It's going to be a very Halo day, guys. Very Halo day. Right, so let's jump onto this while we're doing the coding. It's Edemion talking about Halo Campaign Evolved is a humiliation ritual, which, to be honest, it's pretty accurate.
Halo meant something for me. Halo was one of my favorite games growing up. Playing it with my friends.
So, full disclosure, I have a UNSC flag hanging on my wall in my lounge room. I have the Master Chief and Locke statue in a display cabinet, and even thinking about trying, well, now this is a 5 or 10 year plan. In the gaming lounge that we're going to be building, we're going to be putting a full set of armor for Master Chief. Trust me, I am a fan of Halo. I love Halo. I love the story. But yeah.
After school, and I still remember playing Halo 3 the day that it came out. Man, it was.
But I will say this: my ex's brother. Holy shit! If you want to know anything about Halo, ask him. He can tell you how old John was at a certain time. The guy is absolutely crazy.
Magical. Campaign Evolved, however, is almost upon us, and
in a good way. Crazy in a good way. Like if I was to make a Halo TV show, I would want to get him in and be like, okay, what do we do for a story? He would nail it.
Results have been, well, mixed, but it's also telling me another thing, which is that these companies kind of think that we're stupid. They're giving us humiliation rituals, and it's pretty evident the further that you look into these sorts of projects that the cracks have never been more obvious than they are right now. As seen here, Halo's first outing on PlayStation sits at an 81 on Metacritic.
And I will say this too. Tomorrow night, we are playing Halo Campaign Evolved full playthrough. So there won't be any videos tomorrow, but there will be a full playthrough, well, for 4 hours. And if we don't get it finished on that night, we'll keep going until we get it done.
Which is kind of where I thought it would be, although it still holds nothing compared to the original Halo's Metacritic scores because, well, Bungie didn't work on these and it shows. For example, watch this clip.
So that's the armor we're going to put in the fucking gaming lounge. So you'll be able to go there, hire PlayStations, Xboxes, PCs, play games, have private rooms, have there's going to be a restaurant with like food and drinks, soft drinks, nothing alcoholic. You'll be able to sit around, watch the tournaments, watch people play, compete against each other on a Friday, Saturday night. And all along in the walls, there's going to be indents, and there's going to be things like Marcus, Phoenix, Dom. We're going to put Master Chief. We might even put Cortana in there. We'll put the Guardians from Destiny. All sorts of stuff. And yeah, you'll see them standing on the wall, and they'll be there with like suit up, like full suit of armor, light on them, looking really cool. Yeah.
Nice work.
Thanks. Spartans aren't the only badasses in the UNSC. So, did you take out the Prophet?
Negative.
So, take out the Prophet.
Oh boy, a female ODST that breaks Chief's balls and acts like she's superior to him. Thanks, 343, Halo Studios. That's definitely what Halo needed right now. More modern audience slop. You see, the original Halo barely had any female characters in it. And honestly, that was glorious. And if you were going to add a new character, could you not have picked someone so generic at least? Well, don't worry guys, because we have scenes now where we have prophets introducing their alien buddies like it's a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Don't believe me? Okay, watch this clip.
Yeah, this is so cringe. It really, really is cringe. But
clip.
Here you can observe the true beauty of the Covenant. Our collective strength a reflection of each member's devotion. The tenacity of the Ungor. The cleverness of the Kigya. The Sangheili. Long our partner since the writ of union, the burning edge of the Covenant's blade.
And here's the one thing that I have that I sort of thought of it later. There's no way you expect Master Chief just to stand there and let him introduce, like, it's like Mortal Kombat introducing its fighters. You reckon Master Chief is going to sit there and let you do that? Fuck no, he's going to pull the gun out and start shooting as soon as you open your mouth. By the way, also, why is he meeting the Prophet now? Didn't he only meet the Prophet in Halo 2 for the first time?
And the Jiralhane. What they lack in mind, they make up for in muscle.
I really don't know how you can defend that sort of thing when the original Halo was meant to be this isolationist story somewhat, about a lone cyborg-like man with his AI robot friend in his head who occasionally runs into other people. But generally speaking, he's trekking alone across this foreign landscape to save humanity from this alien threat. It's amazing. Or how about this clip with how they introduced Sergeant Johnson? Watch this too.
Just couldn't save any from me, could you?
Well, and that said, if you wanted Chief to save one for you, how about getting off your ass while, you're supposedly in there chilling while he's doing all the work, listening to music? What'd you need? A personal invitation? Did you need the invite before you got off your ass and did something?
Been a while since I gotta take old Sophie out for a spin. Now you ready to get to it?
And wow, that looked and sounded awful, and I don't know about you guys, but the facial animations look kind of weird to me. Everything shown so far, it looks like Halo, sort of, but kind of isn't like Halo, if that kind of makes sense. It's more so like a skinwalker wearing the skin of Halo and pretending like it knows what it wants to be, but everything just feels off. It doesn't feel like what Bungie did, and I would be pretty frank here, but if Halo, let's pretend for a moment, launched as a completely new Xbox IP right now, like we don't know what Halo is, right? And this was the first game in this new series that we're finally seeing for the first time, and it looks the same in everything. I personally don't think that Halo would become the same mega blockbuster if
it would have bombed. It would have bombed harder than fucking Hiroshima.
it looked, sounded, or played the way that it did here, because there's just something weird going on. It isn't Bungie, it's just a game that's made by people, and it feels like it lacks any discernible identity to me. Well, it turns out that's, well, sort of the case, as Windows Central confirmed here. Halo Campaign Evolved is not really an in-studio project. In fact, the vast majority of the people who worked on this game were actually outsourced through contractor work. This report came from Mr. Rebs Gaming, who, as Windows Central shows here, said a lot of outsourcing was used to create Campaign Evolved, even for core programming and design, so much so that it's not really an in-studio project. Well, that doesn't fill me with any confidence. Apparently, Halo Studios was more in an overseer managerial role when this game was being made, opposed to actually developing it themselves, which kind of explains everything that we're seeing so far, why these new characters don't feel like classic Halo characters, why people like Johnson maybe sound like Johnson, but they don't feel like him, if that makes sense. Everything is just off slightly. Apparently, Abstraction, that's a support studio that has worked with Virtuous, which are the studios that helped do the remasters of Oblivion and Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, also worked on this remake too. To be real with you guys, the better scenario, and this is in my opinion, let me know what you think, but I think it would have just been better to just port the Bungie Halo games as they were. And I mean the original ones when they first came out, right? Just straight to PlayStation 5, same graphics, same everything.
It probably would have been better. But then they wouldn't have been able to charge for the Xbox players to play it. That's the point, right? Like, Ariel 7.
With the multiplayer intact, with none of these modern enhancements that Halo Studios is trying to tout as being necessary, because they aren't. Because it's so very obvious that this game was made by people who were just not involved with the original Halo. It looks like the equivalent of going to a flea market and finding vintage Pokemon cards that are very cheap, but then realizing, oh, they're cheap because, well, they're actually fake, and the closer you look, the more wrong everything is. Nothing about what we're seeing here makes me go, wow, I would love to see the other Halo games done in the same way. But in fact, that's what's actually happening. As Windows Central reported in May this year, as you can see, Halo 2 and 3 are also being remade allegedly similar to this, which, I gotta be real, I don't think that's a good thing. This feels like a bastardization of something people love that is just being done to, in like a sense, to erase what the original Bungie team did, which is a big no-no. Actually, a good way of looking at these remakes is sort of like how, you know how Disney does their live action remakes, you know what I mean? The Lion King one, Little Mermaid, especially Snow White, how they are absolutely nowhere near the same quality as those original animated films, and we all know that, but Disney still remade them anyways into live action, or CGI, I guess in Lion King's case. It's not live action, obviously, but whatever, because they did that because they knew it would print money. Well, Snow White did it because, well, Rachel Zegler sucks, but you get the idea, okay? That's sort of like how I look at this Halo remake, or demake if you ask me. It just exists because Microsoft knows people like Halo, that they will play anything Halo that has it on the box or something at release, regardless if it's better or worse, because people are just starved for this franchise. Bafflingly, all the early impressions that you're seeing online and where these clips that I'm showing that are coming from, they are all by people who, well, paid extra money for 5 days of early access. God rest their souls. Gotta love modern AAA gaming, guys. Oh yeah, here's your remake of a game made by none of the original people, where you pay more to play it early. Thanks, Microsoft. Very cool. Really preying on people's nostalgia.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I can't believe. And ferrets, bro. I know if you watch this, you'll get upset, but I'm going to say it anyway. Bro, what were you doing? You paid early for this stuff, man. Why? Why?
There to get any extra dollars that you can out of them. But the whole thing kind of just feels, I don't know, pointless to me. I'm not saying don't play Campaign Evolved. I mean, it is a somewhat big release in a sense, I guess. It's Halo for crying out loud on a Sony console, so I get the importance here, but personally, I think if this is the direction that we're going in for these remakes, it might be better to just port the originals, I gotta be real. Because a lot of the quirks and what makes Halo unique, it feels absent here. Again, the cutscenes, they feel like a de-evolution of what was made over 20 years ago already. For example, in Halo Campaign Evolved, invisible enemies now, well, they're not even fully invisible. Instead, because it has to be made for a modern gaming audience, the invisible enemies have red arrows over them the entire time, which makes the existence of invisible enemies who are meant to be perceived as threats that you can't see, well, kind of pointless. I'm not even kidding. Watch this clip.
Wow, this must be it. Yeah, thanks, Keys. Cortana already told me that they're using... What? Surely that is the...
Hey guys, I wonder where the invisible guys are. Wait, hang on, I'll look for their markers.
Clearest example right there. Hey, watch out, Chief. These elites are using active camo, and then you walk through the door, and there's big markers over the invisible elites to tell you where they are. To tell you exactly where they are.
I wonder if that's... I am playing this tomorrow night. I wonder if that gets fixed between now and then. But...
Yeah, that's pointless, right? If we're gonna put red arrows over invisible enemies, then why even have them be invisible in the first place? It's like modern gaming dev philosophy does anything that it can to ensure that we are treated like idiots on purpose all of the time. Although I do find it interesting that the annoying girl boss ODST lady that you saw earlier was suspiciously hidden from all marketing and trailers. Almost as if Xbox wanted to ensure they could add a strong female character to this world that Bungie would have never allowed to exist themselves. Because Bungie actually knew how to make good female characters, right? Miranda, Cortana, Kat, all great characters that weren't condescending or annoying, and that's really, really good of them to do, by the way. But instead, those female characters, what did they do? Right, they enhanced the story and everybody else around them. In this version as well, even things like Cortana saying "sawed off" is changed, and the pacing of the scenes, they feel far slower, and if I may say, worse by comparison. So take this example of the Chief, 343 Guilty Spark, and Cortana from Campaign Evolved versus the original game. Please watch this too.
That is absolutely unacceptable.
And yet...
What impertinence! I shall purge you at once. That is absolutely unacceptable.
Sawed off.
What impertinence! I shall purge you at once.
Enough. The flood is spreading. If we activate Halo's defenses, we can wipe them out. Enough! The flood is spreading. If we activate Halo's defenses, we can wipe them out.
Yeah, that just kind of feels worse to me. There's a sense of video gaming.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense now why Guilty Spark says, I shall purge you at once. It's better with the whole sod off thing, but yeah, small change.
To Bungie's version that I really like. It's far snappier, it's to the point, as if Bungie knew that you wanted to just keep playing the game because it was fun. So they ensured that when there was a cutscene, it still moved quick, it got to the point fast, and then it kept going. This new version just, it doesn't feel like it, man. And my god, is it dark. Why is everything so dark in the cutscenes? I'm not even kidding, by the way. They even changed the Captain Keyes scene, which is, well, again, you just have to see it for yourselves. So here, watch this too.
Don't keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find ammo as you go.
If all goes well, we'll rendezvous on the object's surface. And if it doesn't, make sure my daughter gets this.
Yeah, why did they change that? Symbols to the tunnel. Let's remove that while holding a toy. While holding the scarf. That's better.
I see you've kept her safe. She's in good hands.
Did you notice how Bungie's version was way snappier? It got to the point right away, and
Yeah,
it puts you
seems
back into the
shorter.
gameplay.
It seems shorter by a couple of seconds too. So it's interesting. I don't know why they changed some of this stuff.
Quickly, whereas the new version takes way longer with drawn out pauses, and yet it wastes your time to convey the same message that Bungie already made. Even Sergeant Johnson's speech, it feels different in the remake. So here's the original speech that Sergeant Johnson gives in Halo, and then after that I will play the clip from the remake of the same scene. You tell me which is better in the comments. Please watch this too. Again,
man, here's where we show those split-chin squid-head sons of bitches that they could not have picked a worse enemy than the human race. We are going to blow the hell out of those dumb bugs until we don't have anything left to shoot them with. And then we are going to strangle them with their own living guts. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Damn right I am.
And here's where we show those split-chinned, squid-headed sons of bitches they couldn't have picked a worse enemy than the human race. We are going to blow the hell out of those dumb bugs until we don't have anything left to shoot them with. And then we are gonna strangle them with their own living guts. Am I right, Marines? Sir, yes, sir! Damn right I am.
did you notice how the original is far snappier, way quicker, and it's
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit more drawn out on the second one. But it's not by much, but that's just people reading it differently. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't get the original sergeant to come back. Maybe he didn't want to do it. I'm not sure.
to the point. There's no room for doubt or even boredom. Because Bungie, again, they understood that if they need to stop the gameplay, it needs to be for a good reason. In the remake, Johnson is stopping in between sentences. He's spinning around more, and even his damn right I am part, it doesn't have the same gravitas that it originally did. So why even remake this at this point based on all of this and more, right? The game also has things like sprinting, which is bizarre to me, because the original game did not have that. It also has third person. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's fine if they want to add it, I guess. Personally, I don't really want to play Halo in third person. It's not really a third person game to me. It's fine when using like the minigun in Halo 3, that made sense, but I'm not really opposed to that. So if you like the whole third person gameplay, that's fine. But the game, in my opinion, was not really designed for sprinting. At least Halo 1 wasn't. It also technically messes up Marty O'Donnell's legendary original soundtrack too, because he originally tailor-made songs to match the moments that Bungie designers created so that everything would flow perfectly and hit the mood right. Now with sprint added and all manner of things in other Halo games, like not really anymore, you know? Like they also added brutes to some of the missions, which obviously any Halo fan knows the brutes don't show up in these games until really Halo 2 for Bungie. Well, obviously the brutes existed, I guess, in retrospect, but they didn't exist in the games, and that's the point. But for Bungie, well, they're just in Halo 1 now because, well, it's not Bungie making the game. The reality is that Xbox under Asha Sharma is in a really weird spot. Not entirely her doing, I know that. She just inherited this crumbling empire a few months ago, but it's become very clear that Halo as a brand is not being made in-house anymore. It is being made effectively by developers who either never worked on Halo or were just there to mimic what was done before and hope you don't notice. Crazily enough though, Asha Sharma actually is a part of the federal task force in America. She's a part of productivity and jobs for the United States if you didn't know. And recently, however, a politician named Riley Moore claims that Asha Sharma is actually replacing American workers with H-1B1 visa workers from India instead when it comes to places like Xbox in general. I'll let Riley Moore explain it himself, so again, please watch this clip.
So they get their H-1B visa approved and then they get fired from Microsoft. Congressman, you sent a letter to Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh after the CEO of Xbox was appointed to the Fed's Productivity and Jobs Task Force. Have you heard back?
I've not heard back. You know, it's a little breaking news. I just sent this late afternoon yesterday before we headed to the floor, and I want her removed. I mean, so she's the head of productivity and jobs on this task force. I mean, I guess what's the strategy? Fire your workforce and apply for H-1B visas. I think the H-1B visa program needs to be done away with. I think it's a scam. I think it's replacing our people here in the United States. we are a country. We're not an international free trade zone where everybody can come in and compete for our jobs. The American worker is the only worker in the world that has to compete with workers from all over the world inside their own borders.
Well, no, that's not actually true. We do have it here in Australia too, which, by the way, also needs to go.
And we have millions of people graduating college and technical school and trade school every year who are being outbid in terms of wages, not outworked. And I don't think that that's right. I think we need to get rid of the H-1B visa program.
Yeah, and you recently wrote an op-ed for Fox News Digital about it, the need to address issues with the H-1B visa approval process. Walk us through what can be done here, because, you know, you talk with CEOs out there of global businesses, and they're all in on the H-1 visa process.
Because they get cheap workforce. Exactly why.
And hiring people who have those visas. What are you...
By the way, this was also the same topic that basically torpedoed little Indian fellow that was on Trump's team, Kash Patel.
Your concerns?
Well, and look, I get why they're for it. I mean, they get to import cheap foreign labor from all over the world. But look, we are a country. Citizens do have, I think, some type of exclusivity.
So as you all saw, Riley Moore is claiming that Asha Sharma is using her position to flood Xbox with cheaper labor workforces, allegedly, which wouldn't surprise me if that was true in the slightest, since this is, well, not unique to Xbox. However, it is interesting how this was found out and pushed on live television, and now we're looking at Halo in this video, and we're seeing how the game is being remade out of the studio by contract workers who are not situated at Halo Studios or worked at Bungie, and it would not be surprising to me if Halo Campaign Evolved was made in part by developers, maybe not from India, but they could be, but just countries outside of the United States in general. Again, I'm not claiming that Asha...
Look, we use contractors for our game. Our contractors are in Pakistan and India and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we are also a indie studio who is trying to make a AA game on a on an indie budget.
Sharma used H-1B1 visa workers to make Halo. Abstraction, for example, which did work on Halo Campaign Evolved, are actually situated in the Netherlands, for example, but it would not be out of the realm of possibility, and that's the point. That the future of Xbox games, especially in a remake sense, would be created by developers in countries where none of the devs involved really had anything to do with the creation of these franchises in the first place. I can confidently say, however, based on what I have seen from Halo Campaign Evolved so far, that there are definitely things being changed about the series that I don't agree with. Again, I would much rather have the old Bungie Halo games just ported over the way they are and that's it. I wouldn't care if they're not in 4K or have super realistic facial animations. Halo is Halo to me because of the original Bungie developers who made the game. I love that version because their version of Halo is zero fluff. It's all meat, no fat, and that's why I loved it so much and why I replayed the game so many times. And also the fact that this Halo release, which is, as Canadian PSN shows here, it's $70. But weirdly too, the game has no multiplayer, which feels like such a missed opportunity to me. Yes, I know the original Halo 1 was mostly just land-based parties with your friends, I get that, and those were awesome. But they could have at least added online multiplayer to this with the same maps and everything, right? Couldn't they? The fact that it's just the campaign feels weird to me, as if we're just getting less of the original game, but it's still charging up as if it's a premium game. Like, I don't know, that doesn't sit right with me. Even IGN has seen here in their review, they state the remake doesn't feel essential, and yeah, I actually agree with IGN on this one, which is kind of wild. IGN overall says in their review that the game's graphical quality is a little all over the place. There's weird blurs apparently around your guns when you're running, and a bizarre film grain-like filter placed over the game as well. Although they do say, and many reviews say this as well, that the game is still fun to play. Like, it is Halo, right? You shoot stuff, things blow up, you get the idea. It's meat and potatoes Halo in terms of gameplay. As long as you adhere to what Bungie originally created, you can replicate it mostly. But the fact that its visual presentation is teetering on looking good, but not really at times, and the cutscenes are changed to, well, not for the better, and the pacing of the game just feels off because of unneeded things being added like sprints or weird pauses in cutscenes. I keep circling back to the same thought here, guys. They should have just ported the original Halo games. I would have loved Bungie Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, and Reach coming to PlayStation, and all they did, maybe at best, was, I don't know, up the frame rate. great. Maybe they upscaled the visuals a bit here and there, but everything else was just kept intact the exact way that Bungie did it. But I don't think Halo Studios would want to do that because they know if they did that, they wouldn't be able to reach that level of quality because they know that they're not Bungie, especially not Bungie in their golden age. So instead of doing that, I think that's why this remake changes so much, because it runs the risk of no longer really being the same game anymore, you know, and they kind of want you to forget about the Bungie games, but like, come on, those games are legendary for a reason. I'm not saying that Halo Campaign Evolve is going to be a bad game. It's just that what we had before was so masterfully done by OG Bungie. Like, come on, dude. Like, can we agree? Is this one thing we can agree on anything? The original Halo games were freaking top tier, man. 10 out of 10. Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, and especially Reach. Like, I honestly thought Reach would be... There's no way Reach was going to outdo Halo 3. There's no way. And then I play Reach and I'm like, those freaking Bungie guys, man. Again, they made it amazing. I love Reach so much, man. That game's amazing.
To sing a song. Oops, they did it again.
Oh, it's so great. But that's what I mean, right? I just want those games again. I don't really want this remixed, remastered version, but it's not what...
But you just play the Master Chief Collection, right? That's all you have to do. Just play the Master Chief Collection.
They made, if that makes sense. And to get what we're getting here now in 2026 with all the lessons learned, both good and hard in Halo under Microsoft, that for this to be the endgame result, it kind of feels undercooked to me. It's kind of a shame, but it's becoming normalized since I think the more we see games getting remade these days, the more likely this is going to be the end result now. Lots of changes nobody asked for, things not looking or sounding right, but as long as just enough is kept intact to justify the add to cart and purchase, they're going to keep doing it. After all, it worked for Oblivion. Why not here too, right? I mean, this is Halo. People like Halo. Who cares if the animations look odd or lifeless? It was probably done by some contractor outside of Halo Studios anyways, right? Xbox will like you to think. But my problem with a lot of this is how Xbox or whoever wants to make their games going forward. It makes me wonder, well, how can future games then be made? If the identity of these projects are not being made by a centralized team that has become masters of making this sort of game in the first place, right? A great example and a pivot is Nintendo, right? Their first party games are great because Nintendo, while yes, they too might use outsourcing to some degree as well, typically the vast majority of game development is done in-house at Nintendo itself with their own employees who have been there since forever. It's very rare for Nintendo to actually look to outside help to make their first party games, which is why it was actually surprising to find out that Monolith Soft, the Xenoblade team, ended up actually working with Nintendo internally on making the Legend of Zelda games for Switch like Breath and Tears. Monolith Soft was brought onto those projects because they knew how to make open world environments, and if you played Xenoblade, you would know what I'm talking about. So that...
Yeah, but here's the rub, and here's the catch, is the fact is that if you want your team like to be all in-house, then you're spending millions of dollars on game development. So like, to give you an idea, right? One of my assets that I got created was a barrel with changeable flags. And it cost me $50. And it looks great. Looks fantastic. Now I had to code all the coding myself. It was just the barrel with the materials and everything like that, and the flags and everything like that. But the fact is that it works great, and it cost me $50. That same thing on Western developer would probably cost me $250 to $500.
That was a change that was unique, right? Very uncharacteristic of Nintendo, but it worked out. And now Monolith Soft might as well as be a Nintendo studio, since well, all their games released their exclusive.
That $500, that $450 difference, you know, that gives me another 10, 9, 8, 9, 10 different assets that I can create for the same price. I'm crazy if I do it. If I don't do it.
Exclusively now, but that's my point. The reason why Nintendo was able to release so many high quality titles consistently, by the way, is because the team there is cultivated and protected. So when a new game gets made in, let's say, Zelda, Mario, Xenoblade, or more, the people that work on those games are better and faster at what they do because they have the talent, the skill, and the knowledge that is built on making the previous games already. This is why, in a sense, Nintendo's games keep getting better and better, right? Whereas for Xbox, I mean, looking at Halo right now, this team, this game is made by the hands of many people who've maybe never even met in person. They have no idea what makes Halo Halo because they did not make Halo. This would be a different...
But I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think the problem with the Halo Combat Evolved is the many teams. I think that's probably a very small problem. The problem, I think, comes from the Halo studios. My problem with Halo isn't the things like the game not feeling right or anything like that, right? You know, look, yes, it sucks that they didn't put the original sort of text in. It sucks that they went through and changed things and stuff like that. Okay. But I think, but also that could be also explained by Halo Studios too. My problem with it is things like, for example, like them going through and adding these new multiplayer, these new single player missions, them going through and putting in Lieutenant Williams, this sort of stuff. That's the stuff that bothers me the most. And that's the stuff that Halo Studios would have been the ones dictating. So I think he's off base here. I think he's wrong. But
story if, let's say, OG Bungie came back together to remake this Halo game or make a new Halo game. Oh my god, that would sell gangbusters, dude. That would be huge because they know Halo, just like how Nintendo's teams know Mario or Zelda. But when you have a bunch of random people across the planet working on Halo and outsourcing it all, well, what you get is what you're getting, pretty much is the point. It's why I have zero to no confidence.
But it's like, say, the gunplay and everything, from what I understand, feels great. The problem with this new Halo Combat Evolve isn't the gameplay. The problem with it is the decisions that would have been made by Halo Studios. It's the new missions, it's putting in Lieutenant Williams, it's changing the dialogue lines. That would have been all done by Halo Studios, not by this outsourced company.
In future Halo games, I haven't had confidence in Halo since Bungie made it, pretty much. Like, how could I? There's no connective tissue here.
That just proves my point, because guess what? They stopped making Halo, Halo 3? ODST? Right? So at the end of the day, and this outsourcing is only new. And now you only have a problem with this outsourcing. Just goes to show.
Whatsoever. If Halo Studios barely worked on a game called Halo Campaign Evolved, then what are we doing? What's the end game goal here? Just have Halo Studio developers in managerial positions overseeing what a bunch of H-1B1 visa workers are making for Halo, and then piecing it together with, say, hot glue and duct tape and hoping that nobody notices the changes? Is that really the future of game development? It feels and sounds bleak to me. I think the way the cutscenes look is such a dead giveaway that the people who worked on this did not work on Halo at all, because if they did, they would have spotted those problems and rectified them instead of releasing it the way that they did. It just feels like to me, and I hope I'm wrong by the way, that Halo and really Microsoft's Xbox studios in general are mostly now just trying to make their games for cheaper, but in contrast, the games themselves and the quality will suffer too. The only team Microsoft seems to care about at all is Playground, and we can tell that because every Forza game does amazing, sells well, reviews well, plays great, and they're consistent releases. That's what you want to see from a studio backed by Microsoft.
Okay, so hang on. Eric gets struck. The toy falls to the ground. I'm up to. So hang on. So let's go back to games, machinimas. Announcement trailers, monsters remain monsters, and storyboard breakdown, right? Yeah, that one, right. So we download that. I don't know if we necessarily need that toy hitting the ground part. Add videos.
Money, by the way, but it's so bizarre to me that with Halo, that just isn't the case. They made a whole studio in 343 Industries to shepherd Halo for the future, but now these games aren't being made in-house anymore. So is Halo 2 and 3 going to be remade the same way as well? Are they just going to look and sound just enough like what you remember so that you'll buy it, but under the hood it's clearly not the same build? I don't know, man. I'm not crazy about that. I gotta be real. This kind of seems like a missed opportunity to really foster Halo the same way that Microsoft has done with Forza. Like, we know that it's possible. It's just just not being done that way. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe it requires a level of oversight Xbox can't manage in its current form. But this is Halo, right? Isn't this supposed to be the crown jewel in your Xbox crown? Why make the games like this? How are we supposed to foster the talent and identity when 95% of the people who made the game are from all over the planet? Maybe the belief is the people at Halo Studios know Halo, and they are supposed to be the shepherds, I guess. And so as long in theory that they're there, you know, overseeing everything, the games will then come together regardless. I mean, maybe, I guess. But if these are the same people that were a part of 343 Industries, doesn't that prove that they don't understand Halo then, given that Halo 4...
But they're not the same guys. Well, 343 is true. But this is what I'm saying is that a lot of the problems that we've got with Halo Combat Evolved, isn't because of coding or design or assets or anything like that. It's because at the end of the day, it's the decisions that were made by the management.
4, 5, and Infinite weren't received with praise either? It just kind of feels bizarre to me is all. I'm not saying boycott the game. Hey, if you like Halo, you do you. It's fine. It's just that what's on display here clearly feels off to me. It's like looking at a bundle of bread and you want to eat a slice, but you notice there's some mold growing on the bread, and the person selling it to you has a big smile on their face like, oh, don't worry, it's only a single slice of bread that has mold. The rest is fine. I mean, maybe, but that moldy slice is, touching the rest of the bread. I don't think I want to just eat it, just to be safe. That's kind of Halo, right? Maybe its future is bright. I don't know. This is all a nothing burger. Maybe it's growing pains, but future remakes will be banging. We'll see. But right now, it feels like Microsoft wants us to believe them, and they kind of think that we're stupid. But hey, as long as it has the guy in the green armor in the game shooting stuff, it's still Halo, right? As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to. What should I cover next? Let me know. See you guys next.
Yeah, I like his videos. I do. I like his demo. He's cool. But there's some things I don't necessarily agree with on this. I think the big problem that we have with Halo Studios is not the fact of that, like, for example, we're sitting here having outsourcing. And I'm not just saying that because I do it. I think the big problem we've got at the moment is with Halo Studios is the managers who are making these decisions because they've got feminism on the brain and, yada, yada, yada. I don't think it's necessarily the fact of, like, just because of the outsourcing. I think it's more to do with the managers and stuff like that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Alright. What else have we got? As I have watched that. He's he didn't lie. He was he's making not a Supergirl video. Let's do another.
The Power World Nintendo.
Let's do another Demion video. Let's watch him talk about Power World because I find this really, really interesting. Like, it's crazy how big Power World is. And by the way, this gun